Oh, yeah! What's up, everybody? This is the Wrestling Exchange. My name is Ted. I am joined with, as always,
Papo, welcome back, everybody.
Papa. How you doing tonight, my brother?
I'm doing fair. How you doing?
Hey, man. I'm doing all right. We got some interesting things to talk about. We got a little bit of Raw. We got a little bit of Hell in a Cell. But before we go overboard, before we start talking about more stuff, there's a couple of things that I believe you and I would like to mention to our wonderful viewers. And that is interaction. Okay, Papo and I, and Papo, I'm sure you're in agreement with me, we have big plans for this show. Not just the show, but we're talking about creating a brand. We want to do something different. We want to do something special, and we want to provide a really interesting product to you. And the best way to do that is to get our videos out to more people. I'm working on a few different projects, but in the meantime, if you could just comment, hey, if you like it, just be honest, right? Comment, share, subscribe. If you don't like it, don't like it. Leave a comment. Tell us what you think. Interact with us. And, of course, at various points in there, we may ask you to just chime in if you feel so. And even if we don't suggest it, go ahead and chime anyway. Fuck it, right? It'll all be a big bag of fun. Papo, are you ready to get into Raw 2014, Year of Our Lord, October 20th?
Let's get on in it. And welcome, everybody, to the 21st show. Come on. Let's get this ball rolling, Ted.
Hey, Papo, I don't know if you noticed, but we can drink. We're able to drink now. Can you believe that? It's amazing.
I got me some of that H2O, if you don't mind.
Whew. I don't mind, so long as I can drink my 92 proof rum. I think we'll be in business, good sir. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Are you ready?
Oh, ready is my maiden name. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, Raw this week begins with the Cell over the ring the whole night. It just has ominous looking feel. And basically we're treated to an authority promo. Triple H, Kane, Orton, Rollins. They all come out to the ring. Triple H basically says tonight, Rollins, Kane, and Orton will compete on the 3-on-2 handicap street fight, which we're going to get into that a little bit later. Should Ambrose and Cena win, they still have to compete at Hell in a Cell on this Sunday. So it's just best for business because they're going to be weakened come Sunday. They also mentioned a double main event. Seth Rollins calls himself the undisputed future of the WWE. And then Triple H tells Randy Orton that the winner of his match might get an opportunity to face WWE champion Brock Lesnar. So, Papo, I got a couple of questions. Number one, do you think Seth Rollins is the undisputed future of the WWE? And number two, how would you feel about a Randy Orton versus Brock Lesnar match?
I like that two-part question. Let me go ahead and say that I would like to see Randy Orton go against Brock Lesnar. I mean, as of right now, he's, what, a third-generation wrestler? So
Yep.
it's in his DNA. It's in his genes, if you will.
If you will, his Levi jeans.
So, I mean, he's bred to fight. And then we got Brock Lesnar, chicken legs and all, going against Randy Orton. So that would be, I would love to see that match. That is pay-per-view written all over it. As for Rollins being the self-proclaimed future of the WWE.
Whoa. Undisputed future of the WWE. Don't forget. That's very important.
Not really. No. I mean, I can see him with a decent future, but undisputed? No, not at all. I gotta turn straight snob on your ass. No, not at all. Not undisputed, not at all.
Not at all. Well then, and here's, all right. So, I'm going to let you go on that one, right? Because I'm in agreement with you, right? I think that Seth Rollins is very, very good, and this is going to be only good things for him will come of this. But I do have a quick question. We didn't mention this last week, and I've been thinking about it. and it's kind of been simmering on the back burner of my brain, if you will.
If you will.
Whew, 92 proof. Whew. Anyway, so question. You remember last week where a team of Dean Ambrose and John Cena were in that three-way tag match against the tag champions, the Dust Brothers, and the Usos?
Yes, I do.
So, if you remember last week, Triple H and Stephanie made a big deal about how they may or may not have problems functioning or coordinating as a team. And Ambrose and Rollins operated picture perfectly, as if they had been a team for years. Very, very good teamwork. My question is that if we remember correctly, which we do, because that's what happened, Ambrose and Ambrose and Cena won clean, and they won a victory on the tag team champions. So, getting back to this event that happened last week, do you think it would have been better had they just had a screwy finish where we just acknowledge that there is tension between Ambrose and Cena, and maybe that caused them to lose, so that way both the tag champions and the number one contenders, former tag champions, still look strong? And this just, I mean, do you see it as a mistake that two guys who are not a team performed better as a team than the two top tag teams in the division?
I'm in total agreement with you, Ted. First, that actually damaged the tag team titles, if you will.
If you will.
Because they take two guys out of the blue, throw them in the three-team tag team match, and then they win. It was got me so frustrated right now, because that means that Ambrose and Cena are the number one contenders for the tag team belts.
It does. It does. This is the silly stuff that they can't stick to. And not only that, but I'm just going to put this on the back end of your comment. I'm just curious what you think. It's not like these guys have been a team before. Like it's not Ambrose and Roman Reigns or Rollins, where they have that team chemistry and we've seen them operate before as a team. These guys go out on their first night as a team and win the big one out of nowhere. And it's like, okay, in my suspension of disbelief in the world of pro wrestling, I am willing to grant that Dean Ambrose's power levels and John Cena's power levels are way high, right? John Cena, he's like Goku. Power levels really don't matter too much to him. But here's my question, right? Is it...
Breathe.
I just had...
Breathe.
I had a perfect way to word it just now, and it escaped me. But basically, you could expect that from those as individuals, but they're not a team. I guess that's my point, right? They're not an established team, so it's kind of a little far-fetched, in my opinion, if you have two random guys just destroy your... and I don't want to use the word bury because I don't think it's appropriate here. I'm sure it's appropriate in other places. But, yeah, I mean, it just undermines the whole purpose of tag teams, because these two guys who are just so good on their own that they're better as a tag, even though they've been kind of fighting the past couple weeks. I don't know, Papa, it's getting me upset. I should just segue back like a motherfucker into the first match of this night. Do you agree?
You know, I only got one thing to say about that. You ready, Ted?
Hit me. I'm ready. What is that rate on the stinkometer?
That's an 8.5 right there.
Oh, snap. Dangerous levels. People evacuate. Hide your kids, hide your wife. Stinkometer level 8. It's crazy. Things are going to start shaking. World's falling apart. But, Papo, speaking of segues, I have this typed in really weird. I have it typed up in my notes as a 36-man tag match. That's not correct. It's a 6-man tag match. Sheamus and the Usos versus the Dust Brothers and Miz with Biz down. Papa, what do you think about this match?
This was, let me just, how should I put it? A clusterfuck? I
Oh,
mean, let me
really?
tell you. Let me
I
tell
thought.
you.
Oh yeah, go for it.
Okay, let me tell you. Everybody got. I mean, everybody was everywhere. I mean, it was chaos. I mean, the good, wholesome carnage that you want to watch WWE for. And let me tell you, I enjoyed this match. It was actually pretty good. But there was a few other matches that I found that were better. But this match was kind of just like totally out there, in my
With with
opinion.
with the level of entertainment in this particular match as high as it was, do you think it would be safe to say that it was? Wait for it. Awesome. All right.
Very, very nice. Very nice.
Thank you. I'll be here all
Golf
night.
clap. Golf clap. There you go.
But so then, because we have to talk about a couple of things in this match. We've seen the Usos versus the Dust Brothers in 6-man tags for 3 weeks now. Is it 3 weeks in a row? Maybe. Am I wrong on that?
Yes, you are. It actually
Uh,
goes back further, almost 7 weeks, dude.
you're kidding. 7 weeks straight?
Pretty much, yeah. Because they've been having this person come in, and the Dust Brothers have this other person come in, and they have a feud, and then the tag teams have a feud, and it's been rolling on for like a good 7 weeks now, dude.
So then, okay, good. All right. So then this even helps my question then. I originally was not a fan of the Usos. The Usos have grown on me a lot in the past year, and is it is it that they're featured so heavily as teams against each other? Is that hurting the feud, or is that making it better so that way come the pay-per-view they're forced to top what they've been doing on a weekly basis?
That's like actually a good question. As of right now, I'm like just like dur, but because in the fact it is hurting, but then yet it's like helping the singles division where they have a feud, but it's like prolonging that tag team match, that rematch for those belts.
It's kind of like it's kind of like watching old not old like forever and ever ago wrestling, but older wrestling in the fact that you had your heel locker room and you had the best. Well, no, they did this in both the NWA and WWE. In like this reminds me of like 80s, early 90s, is that where you had clear groups, right? So like you had the heel locker room, which was like the entire Heenan family, versus the babyface locker room, which would have been all the good guys, and they all just happened to fall on either side of those lines, right? And always found each other clashing as groups. So it's kind of like this almost like comic book type crossover deal that's constantly going back and forth where they're kind of extending the continuity. And I think it's really cool. It's just that I grow concerned because that they're featured so much. I don't want to use the word overexposed, but in a sense that like it's you can't go out there have your match and then do the Hulk Hogan pose for 5 minutes anymore. Like that doesn't exist. So you you need to be able to work, but you also need to be able to tell engaging storylines within the match. And I don't know if this makes it harder for them to do that, being that we're seeing them all the time. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I should just go on to point out that at some point, Papo, did you notice that Miz put Sandow in, or excuse me, oh my goodness, put Mizdow in, and they just let it happen?
For real. I mean, they didn't even care. I mean, totally took over Mrs. Spot like it was as a stand-in stunt double, extra, if you will.
If you will.
So as of right now, he's doing his job, and Mizdow is, how you say, the wizard of WWE.
Oh my God, he's like an arcane wizard. Like he's like level 40 right now. It's absurd. It's absolutely absurd. And the fact that he's over like a mofo is awesome. But so Papo, I'm curious because for me, if this were any other scenario, I wouldn't like it. Right? Like I would be like, no, that's not cool. Is it just that Sandow is so good and so over, and that these guys have such great chemistry as a team that this is the only way that it's acceptable? I mean, you had no problem with this, right? I'm assuming.
Mm. No, not at all. I mean, and he's totally entertaining. He was Chinese instead of just Miz.
Good, good. So we're in agreement.
Great.
Ms. Dow's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Wonderful. Speaking of greatest thing since sliced bread, did you notice that Ms. Dow, and this was actually pretty neat, Ms. Dow evades the brogue kick from Sheamus. I forget who. I think it was one of the Dust brothers that ate the brogue kick. Ms. Dow jumps from behind Sheamus, rolls him up. Ms. Dow wins, and then as Miz, who's on commentary, just loses his goddamn mind, keeps shouting, "I won." Damien Mizdow keeps shouting, "I won," and they go back up the ramp and to the backstage area, both shouting, "I won." Two questions. One, was this not, pun intended, awesome? Two, does this not remind you a little bit of I'm the Tag Team Champions with Daniel Bryan and Kane, Team Hell No, where they both insisted that they themselves were the Tag Team Champions, plural?
It does. I totally see where you're coming off with that. And it was awesome that they were both going back and Miz Dow not even breaking character at all. That was for real. No pun intended.
Yeah, and I I enjoyed it so much. I love the fact that there wasn't even tension. Like Miz was totally okay with Sandow declaring himself the winner. You know, because Miz is saying I won and Damian Sandow is saying I won, but Miz at no point corrects Damian Sandow, or excuse me, at no point does he correct Damian Mizdow. And then it gets to the point where Damian Mizdow keeps saying I won, but when he's saying it, he's pointing to the Miz. This is incredible. Damian Mizdow is a level 40 arcane wizard. I don't know what else to say. He's amazing. Hello?
Definitely in agreement on that.
Oh, I thought I lost you for a second. So now that we're both finished gushing over Damian Mizdow, we had a backstage segment where Orton tells Triple H that he's going to make him proud, and oh yes, that's right. So Triple H basically tells Orton that the match stipulation he had given him, to where if he beats John Cena, he might get an opportunity at the champion, the Beast Incarnate, the 1 and 21 and 1, the reigning, defending, undisputed champion of the world. He puts it over saying it was Seth Rollins' idea. And this did you find this kind of jarring when he said this? Like, kind of, like, hey, wait a minute, this is kind of out of character, or kind of scummy. Did you find yourself having the same problem?
Definitely did. I see the dissension in the ranks of the authority. I would love and Orton go at it big time. But so with that being said, I got a question for you, Ted.
I'm winning. Let's hit me.
Win. Who would win Orton versus Rollins? Go ahead.
Is this your average run-of-the-mill singles match? Regular rules apply, no interference, none of that? Regular singles, or is this like a match stipulation? What are we looking at?
No, clean match.
One-on-one?
one fall.
Ooh.
1-on-1.
One fall to a finish. Do we get a time limit? Can we have a
Don't
time
tell
limit
me.
draw? I would say they go. I would say they go 40 minutes time limit draw. Man, I don't know. Right? That's a really good question. If I had the book, I would say Rollins wins. Right? Because it does. It wouldn't hurt. It wouldn't hurt Orton to lose because Orton's the guy. Right? And we're going to establish that in a few moments once we talk about something coming up in the show. But Orton's the guy. He's been the guy. He is the guy. You know, he's one of the guys. Whereas Rollins, but then that's also interesting too because Rollins is also the Money in the Bank winner. So him losing really wouldn't hurt either because he's got a guaranteed title shot. That's a good question. I would say count out. They both lose. I don't want to pick because it's uh, unless, well, okay. If you're doing a Randy Orton face turn, Orton wins clean. If you're not doing that, Rollins wins. Papa, are you lagging? Can you hear? Can you see
Yeah,
me?
Snake's going to be a snake. I can hear you.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. You said something about being a snake. You have a snake in your pants?
Yeah. I was saying that a snake's going to be a snake, and an ass is going to be an ass. So you know, regardless.
I like the analogy. I dig it. Yeah. Well, either way, right? That's a money match. That you could put that on as the main event, and I'd be cool with it. That's pay-per-view match right there. And I hope that's a feud we get. Right? I'd love to see those two go at it, given how good Randy Orton is. Just from a perspective of playing his character, and uh, he's been to the top of the mountain, and he was like the anointed one, you know. And now Rollins is kind of the new anointed one, and Orton has been there, done that, and Rollins is just this. He's like this evil, scummier Shawn Michaels, if there is such a thing. Like just scummy early Shawn Michaels, but a little bit better. Just because he could do more shit. What's up? I can't hear you.
Shawn Michaels with a really bad hairdo.
Yes. Actually, you know what? It's growing on me. I'm liking it. If I had the hair, I'd rock it. But not saying that Shawn Michaels wasn't that good. But I'm saying is that Ambrose has more tools, and Rollins has more. Those guys are so intertwined in their feud. I'm always saying one over the other. Uh, Rollins has a few more tools, right? He has a few more spots he can do, which not that a match should be spot, but they should be used as like a garnish or seasoning on something that's already good psychologically, and then you just kind of sprinkle a little spot here, sprinkle a little spot there. Whoever it is eats a carb stomp. Everybody goes home happy. But you know what, Papo? I also wanted to talk about some video packages. I wanted to talk about what's coming up seemingly with both Bray Wyatt, with both Luke Harper and Eric Rowan, plus Bray Wyatt. Are you excited? And you know what? Let me rephrase my question. If you notice, when they've been doing their promos in the past like month, because it's probably been about 4 weeks by now, every time you hear that, and it goes to play the Wyatt family music, the crowd pops every time. And then they quickly realize it's a video package and they become disappointing. So quick questions. Number one, how excited are you on a scale of 1 to a million to get the Wyatts back? Number two, are we getting another member of the Wyatt family? And number three, is this just a repackaging of Rowan and Harper, or is this just they're not a repackage, but like a reboot, and they're being placed in different scenarios, but still, part like when the Horsemen would have their tag matches and their singles matches, they were still part of the overall group, but they didn't have to be with each other all the time. They're still accomplishing a greater goal. I'd like to see what you think on that.
Every time you hear that, yeah, I get excited. I'm after all the things that coming in of how should I say this a rehash or revamp, if you will.
If you will.
Just totally not. I believe that they're sadistic, a little bit more bloodthirsty, if you will.
If you will.
So I foresee these guys going to be even nastier than they were before. And if they play the Wyatts, my name Bo Dallas.
You're cutting in and out. All I heard was Wyatts and then Bo Dallas, which sounds good to me.
Yeah, I'm predicting. I would like to see Bo Dallas join the Wyatts.
Ooh. Could you imagine those promos where Bray Dallas, Jesus Christ, Bray Wyatt's talking about following the buzzards, and Bo Dallas starts just telling him to Bo leave? That'd be fun, right? So you actually answered a question that I was planning on answering. So you did my homework for me, because I was going to ask you if you had to pick someone on the roster right now to join the Wyatts. So thank you. You just made my job infinitely easier. Yeah. So I mean, you're in agreement with me, right? We're tired. We're getting tired of waiting. It can only take. We got to see something soon, because if we don't, we're going to grow quickly disinterested with this Wyatt debacle.
Yeah, the promos are like leading up to something, and I'm like curious to know what that something is.
Do you think that they would make a? Do you think they would return to us at the pay-per-view for Hell in a Cell? I mean, it would be a smart move, right? Because then they'd be capitalizing on telling people this is why you need to watch the network, because you would not have seen this without watching the network, just like buying the pay-per-view. Do you think that they could do that? Or maybe the Wyatts make a splash at Hell in a Cell, and then Bray names his next opponent or victim?
For real, I'm totally in agreement with that. I would totally love to see that. But again, it's starting to drag now. I mean, the promos are leading up to something, and you, as well as I, want to see what that something is going to be.
We do. We do. I'm in complete agreement with you. I'm going to bounce a crazy notion off you, and I'm just curious what you think. What would you think about Bray Wyatt naming his next victim Rusev at a Wyatt-Rusev feud?
Wow, that is something that's pay-per-view written all over it. McMahon, call this man. He's got ideas. Call him.
Oh, man, for days. Seriously. I could do that. I mean, you don't even have to fly me out to Connecticut. I'll just do it from my couch, bro. From my couch.
For real. But all three of the Wyatts going against Rusev, because you know if you can fight with one of them, you're going to fight the other two. So that would be something to watch. And how much would you pay to watch that, Ted?
Only $9.99 per month.
If you will.
If you will, also with a 6-month commitment. So then, one crazy idea to another. Now that I like your response for that, Papa, I'm going to drop the boom. I'm going to lower Ivan Putski, the Polish hammer, on you. What if Since we're in this, I'm drinking, and we're in this crazy what if category, and we'll spend another minute or two here before we move on because there's not much really to talk about show wise. Um, what if Undertaker WrestleMania 31 stays at home, doesn't show up, doesn't compete, no fan access? WrestleMania 31, Sting, his first match in the WWE is against Bray Wyatt, and then on the post WrestleMania Raw, Undertaker, because we'll have the Sting match under our belt, right? And you could use Sting to further elevate Wyatt, because Sting kind of has that. Because I'm assuming we'll get Crow Sting, which is kind of that pseudo supernatural type, kind of but not really gimmick. And I think that could really work against the Wyatts, and you can put Wyatt over or whatever. But so at least we could see him in a ring once, and then give us the Sting versus Undertaker WrestleMania 32. So then the night after WrestleMania 31, Undertaker calls out Sting for that last match, career versus career. So that way we'll have a match. Someone will be able to get the rub from Sting, and then we can have that last match, Sting versus Undertaker, WrestleMania 32.
Dude, my nipples are hard.
Good. I'm glad. I'm glad I inspire your nipples, that I can get the blood flow going. Hey, speaking of blood flow going, we got AJ Lee versus Alicia Fox with Paige. Paige, I think she should just start wearing fishnets, right? I mean, it goes with the look.
Yeah, it definitely helps with those white ass legs.
She is yummy looking. I think I've said it before and I'd say it again. I would thoroughly enjoy eating with those chopsticks. Alicia Fox wins by distraction. Basically, Paige gets annoyed at Alicia Fox during the match. Like, why aren't you you're not being aggressive enough, blah, blah, blah. Shoves Fox into the barrier and then, throws her into the ring only to distract. It was interesting because there's a couple of ways you could have taken this, but I took it more as not so much that she was underhanded and crafty, so much as that Alicia Fox and Paige are so crazy that in that moment, those women both meant what they meant, and they were fighting with each other. And then just because Alicia gets the wins, hey, we're best friends again. Did you have any thoughts on that?
It was done quite cleverly, if you will.
If you will.
But I believe it was a ruse. I believe it was just a setup to have Alicia get the win. I mean, bitches will be bitches.
And she can get it, too. Almost the entire Divas division can get it, with the exception of a handful. So, any other thoughts that you had to that match, or are you still interested in this feud with Alicia Fox coming in, or are you just over it?
I'm over it. Let's get this ball rolling, Ted.
All right. So thanks, Seth Rollins. Only for Seth to suggest that Randy, I only suggested that because if you just happen to get past Cena and you just, by a miracle of miracles, that you would even beat the champ, I would love to cash in and curb stomp you in the back of the head. Which leads us to an in-ring promo with Randy Orton. He basically shoots on the Kansas City Royals. Local sports team gets a cheap heat. Crowd just loses their mind, right? This was amazing. And he basically says, John Cena, you can take your hustle, loyalty, and respect and stick it straight up your candy ass. And then a wild John Cena appears, cuts a promo supporting the Kansas City Royals. So he gets that cheap pop, cuts a promo on Randy Orton, and then the prognosticator of prognosticator, the former head of the Dangerous Alliance, the genius wrestling mastermind, the David Koresh Pro Wrestling, the one behind the one in 21-1. I'm talking about the advocate for the Beast Incarnate, the reigning defending undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, Paul Heyman. Did you notice that this segment immediately took off as soon as Paul Heyman came out?
Oh, he got one of the biggest pops of the night, hands down. One of the nastiest masterminds of WWE today. So he did his thing, and he got, if not, one of the biggest pops of the evening when he came out.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong at all. He really did. And so I'm curious your thoughts too, because there's a lot of stuff that was said in that promo, but basically what Heyman was saying is that essentially Cena and Orton have their priorities wrong, right? Yes, they both came in at the same time. They were part of the same developmental class. Yes, they've been world champions time and time again. Yes, they can be both equally considered in some form or fashion the face of the WWE. But even back then, the Beast was the guy, not John Cena, not Randy Orton. And now, 2014, who's the guy but the Beast incarnate? Not John Cena, not Randy Orton. And even if they did a fusion with the Patara balls, okay, and they just, fused to fight Brock Lesnar, it wouldn't work because Brock Lesnar is on a whole nother level. This was really enjoyable. Right? It was nice to be reminded that Brock Lesnar is and was the man.
Touche. And let me tell you, I'm loving that analogy that you did with the Fusion Ha and the Polaris. Awesome Dragon Ball Z reference. You are the man,
Thank you,
Ted.
sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you. I appreciate it.
And
love my DBZ.
Oh, definitely. And that's a whole different show that we can get into. Money, money, money. So.
Oh, we're gonna have to just do multiple shows for all that sort of stuff. But in the end, basically, Paul Heyman, and this kind of goes to a point that's being kind of hashed out and debated online. So actually, I just wanted to quickly get your opinions on this point before I move on to what actually happened. There's a lot of people that think the product and the championship suffers because of the lack of appearances by Brock Lesnar. Do you think that's a fitting argument, or do you think Paul Heyman is just as good representing Lesnar on an episode of Raw, that you could just leave Lesnar in whatever compound, facility, cave, whatever the fuck he lives in, and then Paul Heyman can basically be the herald of the Beast and just stand there and just, declare things in the Beast's stead?
Well, wherever cave Brock Lesnar's in, I hope he's got crates of bananas for his white gorilla ass. But
he's a silverback.
No, there's a difference between a silverback and an albino gorilla. There's a difference.
He's a Samasquatch.
A Samasquatch.
Samasquatch. I don't know. He's a Brock Squatch. What do you want from me? So, are you okay with Paul just showing up and reminding us who's the real champion without actually having to see him, and then they use up all of his dates? Are you okay with this?
No, I am not. Granted, Heyman could definitely work the mic, but I'm a firm believer of a fighting champion, where he'll go ahead and defend his belt on a Raw, on a SmackDown, on a main event, pay-per-view. That belt is always on guard.
Okay.
Ready to fight anytime, anywhere.
So then let me take this a step further. There's a collective feeling to which I am in agreement with that right now, the quote-unquote mid-card titles, you've got the U.S. title and you've got the Intercontinental titles, are far less significant than they used to be. So it wouldn't, in theory, with the main champion being off TV, here's my solution to this, and I'm just going to throw this at you, see what you think. This would be a perfect opportunity to kind of not re-legitimize, but bring some more attention back to those lesser titles. I would say, for example, you add a stipulation where maybe not the Intercontinental Champion, but the U.S. title has to be defended every show, kind of like a TV title, where every time that there's TV, that title is defended, right? And plus, back in the day, you had back in WWF in the 80s and the 90s, you had your A teams and your B team. So your A teams would go and do the A shows, which were the bigger cities, with the world champion, and then they would do the B teams, which would go to the B towns, which were like the smaller high school gym, local whatever, armory and whatnot, and that they would heavily feature the Intercontinental Champion because he was the leader of the B team. So shouldn't this be an opportunity to kind of reinvigorate and make those lesser titles seem more because the absence of the main title?
I understand what you're saying, Ted, but as of right now, the way they hashed the lower level titles, they need to re-innovate the prestige of some of those titles. Like the Intercontinental title, who Macho Man Randy Savage, the Honky Tonk Man. I mean, they put in work for those titles. And then these guys here are winning with roll-ups, for real. I mean, it's been like those champions have been dumbed down, and they need to find a way to bring the prestige back to to that gold, for real.
I'm in agreement with you. I think that that an easy fix with that would be to find a way to merge both titles, both the U.S. title and the Intercontinental title, and just unify them. Find a way in storyline that makes sense to unify them. And I don't know if you would do it just as regular champion versus champion, or you would vacate both titles and have a tournament, and the winner becomes the new unified Intercontinental champion. Whatever. I don't know. I think that would be more interesting. But I think we're going off the deep end here because we forgot to mention that basically John Cena, after receiving some vicious barbs from Paul Heyman, goes to put Paul Heyman in the Attitude Adjustment, only for let's see, Heyman to then put him down, Cena to instead put him down, and then RKO to Cena, and then RKO to Paul Heyman. Was it? Two questions. Was it awesome to see both John Cena and Paul Heyman eat RKOs, and do you think this is leading to a face turn for Randy Orton?
I don't think it's going to be a face turn because, again, a snake will always be a snake. But it was refreshing to see them both get RKO'd, and I found it very entertaining.
Me too. Is there anything you wanted to cover about that, or can we just keep this ball rolling, Papa?
Well, let's go ahead and keep this ball rolling, Ted. Let's do the damn thing.
We got one of my favorite segments of the night, Rusev. Oh, shit. How's it go? Rusev Putria, Rusev Machka. I love this guy. He has a match with Big E, formerly known as Big E Langston, but, in this company, we're just dropping half names. Antonio Cesaro is now just Cesaro, and Big E Langston now is just Big E. Papa, did you find it was interesting that there's no presence of Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston that we had a couple months ago? It must have been 2 or 3 months ago, where they basically cut a promo like, we're not going to let anything go down. And they there was speculation about a new form, at least, of the Nation of Domination. Maybe not necessarily the nation itself, but just these three extremely talented young African Americans. Did you notice that they just weren't there, and there was no mention of it?
No, not at all. I thought something was going to arise, but it looks like it just fizzled, dude. So I didn't expect anything of it, but let me tell you, Big E was a beast in that match. I don't think I've ever seen him work so just tenaciously, if you will.
If you will. Well, if you remember, Big E and Rusev, what did they have? Two or three pay-per-view matches just a couple months ago, and those matches were killer. They were brutal as fuck, right? I mean,
they were.
Those guys killed.
Yeah. But, after watching those matches and watching this Raw, it just seemed like this Big E was just out just to hurt him. It's like he had a personal vendetta, and he just took it to Rusev. But
Yeah,
I'll go ahead. I'll let you go ahead and recap on that match.
well, you know what, and you're not wrong. You hit the proverbial nail on the head, if you will. Big
If you
E
will.
does put a hurting on Rusev, but just like a bitch, he taps out and lets down 318 million Americans, and this is where it gets interesting. So after they have that just killer match, which I'm not the world's biggest fan of two big guys versus two big guys, because I feel like generally, unless they're super athletic and more agile, um, it's just blah, right? I mean, it's like watching Hercules Hernandez versus the Ultimate Warrior. It's not going to be a great match in the sense that you're getting two things that are the same. You're getting a steak, and as an appetizer, you're getting a steak. You know,
Yeah.
you're trying to put two things together that just. I mean, yeah, I love steak, but I don't want a steak sitting on top of another steak. You know, I don't want that. Maybe I want some steak and some potatoes. You know, maybe some applesauce, whatever it is. On paper, this match doesn't work, but these guys proved it. They knocked it out of the park. Again, Big E lets down 318 some odd million Americans. Afterwards, Lana cuts a promo. Rusev cuts a promo on Big Show. I like that she kind of lets Rusev speak for a minute and then takes it back, because it's slowly it's not a jarring transition. We're like slowly being introduced to Rusev's speaking skill, and I hope they keep them together for a long time because they do really have good chemistry. And it doesn't have to be that he can't talk. I mean, we've seen time and time again where you had wrestlers that could talk a little bit. They weren't bad, but they still had someone with them to help them talk. Um, so
Die,
they
die, 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 die.
so um, after the match, they go to do the bit where they used to do with Sonny in the late '90s, or I think it was '96, '97, where they drop down, the Russian flag. They go to do that. It makes the bang, but no flag. Then we cut to Big Show on the Titantron, and he makes this kind of like cutesy face, and then the American flag drops down with some patriotic fanfare playing on in the background. Rusev, the beast that he is, goes to pull the American flag down, and I'm going to say it's a plant, jumps in the ring dressed like a soldier, or it could have been a soldier. They do a lot of work with the U.S. troops. Jumps in the ring, and then while he's being restrained from security because they're like, you don't want to be in here, guy. This is professionals only. Don't jump in the ring. Rusev kind of super kicks him in the head, and then the soldier gets attended to by medical staff. Out comes Big Show. He walks the soldier to the back, basically cuts a fiery promo, and then threatens to, if Russo won't come to him, he'll come. Russo. Nope. If Rusev won't come to him, he'll come to Rusev, and then goes backstage, kicks in one door, and Rusev's not there. And then the segment's forgotten about. So I do want to ask two quick questions. Number one, were you waiting for Rusev to pull the American flag as much as I was? And two, do you think it was just kind of stupid that Big Show looked for him in one place and that was it, and that just kind of like undid the importance of the story? Like if this should have been something that, maybe it was the opening match where this happened, and then repeatedly throughout the night he's looking for Rusev. What are your thoughts on that?
I would totally love that. That would have been so awesome to have him just have the Big Show hunting Rusev. And honestly, there's a difference for security when a spectator gets into the ring as for a plant. If you notice that they'll have like the jabronis come out and act like security, but
So wait, you don't think this was a plant?
I don't think it was a plant.
Really? Maybe I'm just a jaded wrestling fan. I think it's totally a plant.
I don't believe it was a plant, because if you notice the security, They weren't the regular jabronis that came out.
Oh, let me tell you something. In my book, it's win-win either way, right? It's a win if he's a plant because then you have people that don't think it's a plant and they get into it, and people like me who think it is a plant, and then but even if he wasn't a plant, right? This is win-win because then he still gets kicked in the head by Rusev. So here's what I think should have happened, which is not that much different than what actually happened. I think he should have kicked that soldier in the head, beat the shit out of him, and then pulled down the flag anyway. I think that would have been. I think it's a work. I could be wrong. I mean, there are a lot of things that we think are works or not works, and vice versa. But that's interesting, and I think we're going to have to agree to disagree here. I think that was just whether it was a real soldier or whether it was just a guy dressed as a soldier. I think it was a work. But either way, you're saying you don't want to see Rusev pull down the flag?
You know what? Rusev is awesome in the ring. He's got crazy skills. But to take that step to desecrate the American flag, it would only just put him in danger. He have the whole WWE universe on his ass, but then he's going to have the whole WWE roster on his ass.
I get what you're saying. I think this is one of those cases where you and I just don't don't agree here because I like it to go really far. I want wrestling to push certain envelopes just to stay relevant culturally because I mean that would get a lot of people talking, and you're going to have all the news outlets talking about it, and then you're going to have parents that haven't watched wrestling since they were kids when like Bruno was champ, and they're going to be like, what happened? And they'll tune in and whatever. I would book it. I would have Rusev tear down the flag, stomp on the flag, and not rip it in half or anything, but maybe spit on it. That he's just this really kind of anti-American motherfucker, and he's just going to keep doing what he's doing. Because I think it would add to the overall. You just got to make sure he doesn't go out in public and keep security around him 24/7 because I think it's an art form and I think it would benefit from it. But you and I are just going to agree to disagree, and we're going to move on to a backstage scene where Dean Ambrose is apparently sitting on the couch in some dressing room watching popcorn, or excuse me, eating popcorn and watching Cena Weevil, to where he's interrupted by Cena. Did you like this segment? Were you okay with this?
It didn't really bother me. I was like, he's watching See No Evil 2, and I haven't seen See No Evil 1.
It was good. It was good. For a bad WWE movie, it was pretty good.
So, I mean, this leads into the a little banter between Cena and Ambrose, quoting superheroes.
Yeah, I mean, Ambrose compares himself to Batman and compares himself to John Cena. John Cena then basically insinuates that Ambrose is more Joker. Did you cringe when Ambrose asked him why it's so serious?
I thought I laughed, dude. I had to laugh. That was so funny.
I thought it was terrible. Like I thought, I was with it all the way up until that line, right? Because I was like, okay, well I can accept that, that's fine. But the fact that they made Ambrose say it, they just lost me. So I was like, well, now you're just coming off as hacky. But I mean, overall, it wasn't too bad, right? I mean, it's better than most backstage segments.
Yeah, it was all right. I mean, to me, I thought it was funny. I mean, the whole Joker comment, I still even use it. So.
Do you ask people why you got these scars?
No, I asked why so serious.
Yeah, man, great movie. But I don't want to get too far deep in it because we got a couple of other things to cover. So keeping this ball rolling, we ended up with Brie Bella versus Summer Rae. Nikki's watching backstage on a TV monitor. Brie wins with the Bella Buster. Bella Buster. Anything that you wanted to mention about that, or any thoughts?
No, not really. I mean, they're actually working in the ring more than they should. So whatever. Let's see what happens at the pay-per-view.
Yeah. I have said before that the Bellas are improving. I just, I hate that she's adopting Daniel Bryan's moves. I really, especially the kicks, because those kicks, they're like the worst kicks ever, right? And if here's the thing, if you've got a bad working punch, don't use it, right? Chop somebody. If you got a bad stomp, don't stomp on people. You know, if you've got a bad kick, if it doesn't look good, don't fucking kick people. Her kicks look like the kicks I would give to my 4-year-old niece when we're horsing around. They're terrible. They don't even look dangerous. Like at least with Brian, you can tell by the way he kicks that he uses that torque from his hips. You know, it's very like your boy Mr. Lee in the background. All that energy that you get from the torque in the hips when you just that snap. But she does it. They're just fucking awful. They're the worst. And I'm really growing tired of her reminding us she's married to Daniel Bryan. I'd rather that we forget Daniel Bryan and then all shit our pants when he returns than be reminded by Brie, because I don't think she's improving at the rate her sister is. I'll just leave it at that. So, that being said, Papo, Ambrose comes to the ring with a giant bag. Long story short, the bag has a life-size doll in it. Ambrose shoots on the doll, rips off his hand, slaps the doll with its own hand, puts a screw in the doll's face, puts a hammer to his head, and he says, in my dream, I saw myself chopping your testicles off, and then I remembered that you don't have them because you already gave them the authority. Takes tongs to the doll's balls, gives it a pile driver, and then up until this point, were you enjoying any of this?
No, not really. I mean, it dragged. I mean, I was like really not interested in it. It looks like they just did it for shock value. But no, the beginning of the segment did not have my attention at all. I started playing Candy Crush.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I kind of felt the same way, right? Like I don't know if they're just trying to figure out how Ambrose works or try to tap into Ambrose's thing, because you know everybody's got their shtick, right? And everybody has to figure out how to play to that. I think that the problem here is that they're trying to play to Ambrose's, but they're trying to give him a shtick, if you will.
If you will.
But it's just they're slowly and but surely finding out what works, what doesn't work. Here, I didn't think it was that great, but I wanted it to turn into something really serious. Like I wanted him to, joke about Seth Rollins, like he was doing to the doll, but then eventually just turn it up a notch and just get really serious and just tell, no longer talking to the doll, but basically tell Seth Rollins, you get into the cell with me on Sunday, you are taking your life in your own hands, and I am not to blame for my reactions. Instead, we didn't get that. What we did get was we had Rollins show up with my favorite current stooges, Jamie Noble and Joey Mercury. The two go back and forth. They exchange some verbal blows, and Rollins was actually just about to get into the ring when the hardcore legend, Mick Foley, showed up. Did you pop at your house, Papo? Did you just lose your shit? Because I did.
Oh, definitely. Mick Foley, hardcore legend. Come on, man. That right there was the biggest pop of the night. And let me tell you, when he comes out and when he speaks, you want to listen because he's not a jabroni. He's not a rookie. He's an intelligent guy, and you want to listen to what he has to say. And he always has something logical to say, and the way he puts it together, it makes perfect sense. So if he was talking about entering Hell in a Cell, when you leave, you're a totally different person. and I believe that wholeheartedly.
Do you, I loved it, right? Because I felt that aside from Triple H and The Undertaker, who else are you going to bring out to put over how dangerous that the Cell is than the guy who almost ended his career like 18 years prior at what people would call the Hell in a Cell match? I have seen almost all of them. Uh, with the exception of the Boss Man one. I can't remember if that was Boss Man and Undertaker. I'm not sure. But I've seen most of them. And even though technically the Hell in a Cell match, I think it was a King of the Ring 98 with Foley and Undertaker, although technically that is a bad match because there's not a lot that happens content-wise. And if you didn't love pro wrestling, you might hate that match because it's very much like shock, and it's very violent, and it's actually kind of short, right? It's not even 20 minutes. I don't think. It is your mind. That's something that we'll never forget, right? By God, he's broken in half. He's got kids. Damn it. I mean, it was just amazing. So who better to come back and talk about just how brutal Hell in a Cell is than a guy who was not only put through it, but was also thrown off it in his first go. Um, so a couple of quick questions. Number one, did you notice that he mentioned that this was his 300th consecutive day that he's been wearing Christmas attire? Apparently he was wearing it looked like a Santa shirt under the old red and black flannel. Do you think Foley coming out saved this segment? And because basically that was really it. Because afterwards Ambrose goes to take a swing with a steel chair, and then Rollins jumps outside, and then Ambrose throws the mannequin at him. This was good stuff, right?
Yes, it was, and Foley did save this whole segment big time. Thank you, Foley, for saving Ambrose and this crappy segment. But let me tell you right now, that match with Foley with Hell in a Cell, I watched it live, pay-per-view, and it was, I mean, it still haunts me how he was thrown off the top of that Hell in a Cell and went through a table. Now, going past to interviews, Mick Foley was in control when he was first launched off the Hell in a Cell, so he knew how to take a bump of that caliber. But then when he got chokeslammed through the top, he had no control and he took the full force of that. Man, that was brutal. Brutal. So when Mick Foley talked, and I'm surprised that these guys didn't take notes.
Really. And it's funny too because you mentioned that even that first spot where he's thrown off the cage, because he's talked about it, like you mentioned, he says he's good at evaluating risks and seeing if the risk is worth it, and then he just kind of goes for it. Yes, the commentary table does kind of break his fall, but he doesn't land like on the commentary table. He like lands through it and then rolls off. Like, so it doesn't even look like that was just a bad. I don't even know how he didn't like break a hip or like his tailbone or something. And then, like you said, to go through the top, and then there's a chair that's on the top of the cage where he is, that he passes the chair on the way down. He hits his head, and then the chair lands directly on his face. If you go back and watch it, it is probably, aside from Starrcade 87, maybe 88, where you had oh god, Greg Valentine versus collar match. aside from that match, this is probably the most violent thing I've ever seen in pro wrestling, because after he gets thrown off the top, after he goes through the top, then at some point he breaks out the thumbtacks, and then apparently backstage, when he was kind of out of it at that point, he had asked someone, "Did I use thumbtacks?" As there's like thumbtacks all over his body, just amazing stuff. But we're forever grateful.
Definitely grateful. That was, again, one of the most brutal matches I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
It's coming out of the WWE.
Uncomfortably violent, right? And even then, it was just like, oh my god. And yeah, I don't even want to get into it because now I'm going to have nightmares. So, next match, Dolph Ziggler versus Cesaro. I have a couple of problems here. This match had a really slow start. The match itself ended up really good, but Papa, I have a real concern because basically Cesaro won with just a European uppercut. Does this not concern you?
Actually, it does. I mean, because he's uppercutted so many people and he just brushed it off and kept on fighting. But, I mean, it fits his MO, if you will.
If you will.
But to win with the European uppercut, it didn't settle well with me, for real. It didn't settle well with me at all.
Good. Then you and I are in agreement. But I have a thing I'd like to add here, and I'd like to see if this small change is added to it, if this would have changed your opinion on it. I didn't like it, right? Because as you said, he's European uppercutted everybody over and over and over again. It's like they're his version of chops, right? And I love that he's the only one that really does it on the roster. I'm okay with them using this so long as there's a little bit more presentation. Like if it's the mega European uppercut and he like walks into it, like he takes a couple of running steps maybe and does it, or if he just only uses it as a signature move. So then like doesn't use it all the time and then busts it out once. So I'm okay with him using it as far as them like deciding to establish multiple finishers for him. But I'll tell you what I'm not okay with, Papa. As far as I can see it, in the past 2 fucking weeks, Randy Orton, Rusev, and Cesaro have had wins on the Intercontinental Champion Dolph Ziggler in singles competition, which I don't know about you, and I don't know about the people out there, but in my fucking opinion, there should be a 3-way for the number 1 contender spot at the pay-per-view. Because all 3 of these guys have beaten the champion in singles competition.
I'm in total agreement, man. They're just like, this is how they're dumbing down the championship. For real. I stated earlier during the show where the lower championships don't have that prestige as it once did back in the past. So that's 3 wins over Ziggler, or is it 2?
Who? Which one?
We got Randy Orton, Rusev,
right, and Cesaro.
And Cesaro with wins over Ziggler.
Oh, you mean like who has the most wins over Ziggler?
No. I'm just telling you right now that he's in one competitor that has wins over Ziggler, and he's still holding the belt.
Yeah, it doesn't sit right with me, and mainly because it. So I'm going to go back to. Do you remember when Rey Mysterio at 21, where he beat Kurt Angle and Randy Orton? You remember that?
Yes.
You remember how he lost every non-title match he was in, like just repeatedly, to everyone and anyone?
Okay. What are you getting at?
What I'm getting at is that it hurted Rey Mysterio's in the eyes of the fans, right? Here's a guy who can't get the win 9 times out of 10, and then I mean, don't get me wrong. He's the ultimate underdog, right? Because he's like 5'6", he's 175 pounds. I don't even believe that. I'd say he's about 160 tops. But no, he's not even 5'6". He's like 5'5". But your champion can have losses without looking soft or weak, right? Because perception is reality. And yes, it's pro wrestling. Yes, it's scripted. Yes, it's not, an actual competitive, live at the moment sport. But it is in another way. But I feel like by having constant losses on the Intercontinental Champion, as we discussed earlier, the idea of kind of making those championships relevant and bringing prestige back to them, this is not how you do that. Loses to everybody in non-pay-per-view matches. It's bad, right? They should at least do a DQ finish or a count out or something. Use some of their other tools at their disposal, because this makes Dolph look like a bitch. I mean, doesn't it? It just makes him look like a pussy.
Touche.
And my ultimate problem here is that Michael Cole conveniently mentions, oh, hey, Cesaro gets a title shot. But no other fucking time when someone pins a champion do they actually acknowledge that they're the number one contenders. Like you said, Cena and fucking Ambrose should be number one contenders for the tag titles. But they only mention it when it's convenient, and that really kind of burns my ass. And then Cesaro hits him with a neutralize after the match to an unconscious Ziggler. Again, I don't know. It's just making me really nervous. Backstage segment, Triple H is trying to get Orton and Rollins on the same page. It's not working, so he makes Kane the general, if you will.
If you will.
And decides to put the faith of the outcome in the good and capable hands of the Big Red Machine, which leaves us another Wyatt video package, which we're not going to get into because we talked about that before, to the main event. Before we get into the actual nuts and bolts of the main event, did you enjoy this?
I did, but I didn't. I am so tired of these handicap matches with Cena and Ambrose being the face, and then we have Rollins, Orton, and Kane, the authority, if you will.
If you will.
It's starting to drag so bad right now. It is. But overall, I enjoyed the chaotic chairs, tables, kendo sticks. I enjoyed the street fight. Out of all the handicap matches that they had, this one was my favorite. Still starting to drag, but this one was my favorite.
All right. Papo, do you mind if I take a few moments and just kind of let it out?
You know what? Ted, please give us your rant.
This match was fucking bullshit. And I will tell you why. Papo, I'm going to go out on a limb here, which isn't much of a limb, and say that you've watched a plethora of wrestling in your lifetime. That's safe to say, right?
A plethora, yes.
Good. You've seen singles matches, you've seen tag matches, you've seen mixed tags matches, you've seen war games, cage matches, Hell in a Cell matches, and you've seen street fights, right? These are all matches that you've seen before, yes?
Yes.
Okay, good. So if I told you that in the main event, you're going to have a 2-on-3 handicap street fight, John Cena and Dean Ambrose versus Orton's, Rollins, and Kane, tell me, when you think about the rules for this match, what comes to your mind?
No holds barred. Everybody in the ring. Weapons. Chairs, tables, ladders. Freak run-in. I mean, a street fight. I mean, all the elements. Into the crowd. Out into the parking lot.
Would it be a stretch to suggest false count anywhere?
Falls count anywhere also. I mean, I
Good.
want to see a fight in the concession stand. Let's see Dean
Good.
Ambrose hit Rollins in the face with a hot dog.
All right. So
Yeah!
then you, so you and I are in agreement. Then we know what the hell a street fight is because they've done it before. If you talk to anyone who has seen a professional wrestling street fight, what just came out of Papo's mouth, ladies and gentlemen, is a street fight. It's weapons. It's no rules. It's no count out. No time limit. Falls count anywhere. Anything goes. Here's why this was bullshit. Okay, it's 2-on-3 handicap tag match. It's also a street fight, so we can. And this is where I draw my line of disbelief. Like this is where I just can't do it. Right? We're gonna say weapons are allowed, but each man who's not the legal man on their team has to stand on the fucking apron. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. I don't know. That doesn't even make any sense. If you can use weapons, what says that it's not tornado tag rules? If I can hit somebody in the face with a kendo stick during this match, why does it matter if we're not? Okay, so when you have any sort of tag match, the reason why the other guy has to stand on the apron and has to the count of 5 when he's tagged out is because he'll get disqualified, right? That's wrestling rules and psychology. That to hold, like they like holding in the corner, that's to make sure they stay where they're supposed to stay because of disqualification. Because if they have so many breaks, they're going to get DQ'd. If they stay away from their corner, they're going to get DQ'd. Okay, if they come in unprovoked, they're going to get DQ'd. In a match where there's no friggin' DQ, what in God's name is the point of making them stand on the apron when you can hit somebody in the face with a fucking chair? I don't know. It drives me crazy. It makes no sense. And this match was, I'm sorry, I love Dean Ambrose, I love Randy Orton, I love Seth Rollins, but this match was kind of dog shit. It really wasn't that good. And then it only kind of sort of picked up because at some point Kane gestures to the people, to I guess to the stage, the whatever they are, the people that make things happen. He tells them to go ahead and lower the cage. This isn't the only point where this match gets any good. But then it kind of feels like you're rushing it because the pay-per-view's this Sunday. Why bring the cage down? Like, we're getting it too early, right? I mean, it's like getting to see what your parents got you for Christmas before you actually unpack the presents, right?
For real. I mean, it was a quick taste for Kane to call the roadies to put down the cage, but that's when the match actually got better.
Yeah. It was pretty terrible up until that point. I will concede that. So then, did you? Because it's the end. That's where things picked up, Papa. Because Orton goes, he has Dean Ambrose down. He starts calling for the RKO when he does that thing where he turns and drops down and starts hitting his forearms on the mat. This is after Dean Ambrose makes his comeback. He's intercepted by John Cena with an attitude adjustment. Orton actually kind of slides off, doesn't get the attitude adjustment. Cena eats a gigantic chokeslam from Kane. And then Ambrose hits Kane with the double arm DDT for the win. What's interesting is that now Michael Cole is calling the double arm DDT the Dirty Deeds, which was previously last week. That was the name of that headlock driver move. Do you like Ambrose's version of the double arm DDT? And B, do you think it's weird that they're just changing the name?
Well, I love the double arm DDT. I mean, Mick Foley did it best. But to change the name for a move, I mean, they do that constantly, so it doesn't really bother me.
Okay, good. So then here's my follow-up point. Wouldn't it be better, instead of just to have this move replace the headlock driver as the Dirty Deeds, wouldn't it just be good to have this used as another move? So that's in his signature moves? Because, I mean, if you think about it, Sheamus is a perfect example of this, right? Sheamus technically has like 4 or 5 finishers that he's used over the years, right? He has the white noise. He has that rolling senton. He has the brogue kick. he has the Irish backbreaker, he's got the Texas cloverleaf, and he's got the razor's edge, right? So technically, he's got 6 moves in his arsenal that have been established to use for victories at one point in time or another. So when he does when he does use them, it's important. It means something to the people watching because they're like, well, shit, I've seen him put away dudes with those moves. So you know it's serious. So then my point is then, wouldn't it be better just to add this as another move to the arsenal as opposed to just replace it with what he already had and then just reskin it?
For real, I'm in total agreement. I mean, the 2 separate moves, they should give it a new name.
Yeah.
I mean, and not just call it Dirty Deeds after the that was it like a falling, like reverse DDT, forward DDT.
It's kind of yeah. You could call it like an inverted DDT because he would have him in a headlock, but then he would kind of do this. He would kick his leg out, and it was almost like a modified headlock DDT type deal. I'm just calling it a headlock driver because that's what they call it in 2K14. Because I don't have 2K15 yet, so I don't know. So that being said, what'd you think about after the match where Randy Orton just eats a curb stomp out of nowhere?
That had to be my favorite moment of the night. It came out totally unexpected, and you can tell that Rollins meant it. That was totally uncalled for, but totally choice.
Yeah, I'm in total agreement with you. Like, I didn't see it coming, but when it happened, it was like, oh, shit, I'm so happy. So ladies and gentlemen, pretty much sums it up for our coverage of Raw. But we're not through yet because we got a couple of issues to jump on. First, Papo, I'd like to tell the good people out there what our match of the week is, which is a recommendation for the peoples who watch the most electrifying podcast in all of sports entertainment, Ted and Papo, the Wrestling Exchange.
Okay.
Are you ready for the match of the week, Papo?
Ted, you ready for it? Give it to him. Give it to him.
Ladies and gentlemen, this week, our recommended match of the week, which you can watch on the WWE Network for only $9.99, is Eddie Guerrero versus Kurt Angle. This is WrestleMania 20. It's an excellent match. I'm not going to tell you the results, although you may or may not have seen it. But it lives up to the lying, cheating, and stealing the late, great Eddie Guerrero, rest in peace. One of my all-time favorites, as I'm sure is one of Papo's as well.
Oh, yeah.
So this match was crazy. If you're into good technical wrestling, this is a match. There's a lot of really good amateur wrestling in this match. And there's a lot of really good storytelling. And the finish is the icing on the cake. It's a perfect wrestling match where everything works well and then everything is used to enhance something else until you get to the finish. And the roof was blown off the building. Now, Papo, we've also got some predictions to get into for Hell in a Cell this Sunday. Are you ready for this?
All right.
So this week, this month, I'm actually going to write them down because I can never remember what we predicted. So we can actually have a physical record. In no particular order, these are the matches that I've seen advertised so far. First matchup, WWE United States Championship match, The Miz versus Sheamus. Your prediction?
I'm going to go with The Miz on this one because of the Wizard Mizdow. Or should we call him Wizdow?
I don't care what we call him. We should call him Champion. That's the only thing we should call this man.
Okay. So I'm going with The Miz for this one with the help from Mizdow.
Papo, I don't even need to rebut your statement because I'm in complete agreement with you. I am also going with Miz over Sheamus for Mizdow. Next up, we have Big Show versus Rusev. Papo, your prediction?
I'm going to go with Rusev. He is mad resilient, and I believe that he's going to get over on the Big Show.
I'm with you. I'm with you. And again, we're on the same page here. I'm calling it Rusev as well. So we got Bray versus Nikki in a loser becomes the other's personal assistant match for 1 month. Your prediction?
I'm going to go with Nikki. I think she's going to get some help on that.
Damn it, Papo! You and I are just neck and neck so far. I don't. At some point, we're gonna disagree. I don't know when it's gonna happen, but so far, you and I are. We might not even count this month's because we're in agreement with everything. So, first of the two-part double main event: John Cena versus Randy Orton, Hell in a Cell.
I want Randy Orton to win.
Oh fuck, man! It's coming down to the wire. Randy's my pick as well. So then, last question. Actually, this is a two-parter. Number one, should Rollins and Ambrose be the last match on the show, or should it be Cena and Orton the last match on the show? They're both double main events, but one's got to go on last. One's got to be the real main event.
I mean, we've seen Randy Orton and Cena 1,000 times. And technically, they both are the franchise of the WWE. But that grudge match between Ambrose and Rollins is like just something that we've all been waiting for since the split of the Shield. So I'm going to go with Ambrose and Rollins for the main event.
Excellent. I'm in complete agreement with you here. Don't fail me now, Papo. What's your prediction for Ambrose versus Rollins and the main event at Hell in a Cell? At Hell in a Cell.
Okay. Well, this one is a toughie. I mean, we have Ambrose, the psychopath, and then Rollins, the undisputed future of WWE, going at it. So, I mean, I want Ambrose to win for that grudge so they can actually put it to rest. But then I see Rollins winning it with a curb stomp. I'm going to have to go with Rollins.
Finally, this is where you and I can actually have a bet over. You're going to go with Rollins. All right. So finally, we got some ascension here, my friend, because I'm going to go with Ambrose. And the only real reason why, and I don't want to pick Ambrose because I feel like if Ambrose wins, this is the end of their feud. I don't want that to happen. I want these guys to feud off and on for years. But more specifically, I want this feud to end at WrestleMania, right? Because I think that's your season finale. I mean, you want to talk season premiere? Fuck you. 2 months ago, this WrestleMania is the season premiere and the season finale. So that's where I would like to see that feud end. But I don't know, man. Going over what you and I have so far, we got heels winning every match on the card. Babyface has got to get over sometime. And I'm going to say Ambrose goes over because we got Miz on paper. He's a heel. We got Miz for the win. We got Rusev for the win. He's a heel. We got Nikki to win. She's a heel. And then we got Randy Orton to win. He's a heel. I'm just going to go just to say because there has to be A, you and I have to disagree on something. B, I'm just going to have to say it because, I mean, every other match, the heels are going over, unless this is the night of 1,000 heels. I'm going with Ambrose. And that's my story, Papo, and I am sticking to it. I understand that there is something that we'd like to discuss before we go off the air this evening.
Okay. Well, last week I posted a question, how should we title our fans, viewers, family, friends, etc., etc.? I'm going to leave that question up. I'm going to go ahead and share that on my Facebook page to my friends and family and see if I can get any hits on that. Please, if you will, come up with a title so we can refer to our fans. We got some big ideas, and we want you to be a part of it. So this week's question is the same as last week's. Please answer, comment, share. We would love to get your input.
And Papo, they can also They can also just answer that on the YouTube page. They don't have to necessarily go to the Facebook. They can answer that here too.
Yes, they can. And please feel free to do so.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, again, just like Papo stated, and I don't want to repeat too much of what he just said, but we got big plans. Papo and I know about it. We can't tell you guys yet because we're afraid someone's going to take our idea. And then that's no bueno, and it's not going to be a win-win for us. So, ladies and gentlemen, anything that you liked, if you watched and you said, hey, I like these guys, I want to see more of them, click that thumbs up button. If you didn't like it, click the thumbs down button, and then tell us why you didn't like it in the notes so that way we can improve your overall viewing experience. We'd really appreciate it. Again, you can share social media. Go to the Facebook page. This will be included in the description box below in just a few moments once this video finishes being uploaded. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all I have to say about that. My name is Ted, and that is
Papo. Good
thank
night,
you very much
y'all.
for good night, everybody, and thank you for joining us on our 21st birthday. Peace.
Peace.